Hey, what's going on everyone? Welcome back to another video. I'm David Sherry and I'm a coach to remote founders and creators. And today I want to talk about why it's important to be as specific as possible when you talk about what it is that you do. So when people ask you that question, what do you do for a living? I know that that creates a lot of fear in a lot of people's minds. Immediately we kind of freeze up. If you're someone who's self-employed, if you're a contractor, if you're a freelancer, if you're in between jobs, I've even seen startup founders who just didn't want to tell anyone outside their family that they ran a startup. There can be a lot of shame in discussing what it is that you do. There can be a lot of baggage in discussing what it is that you do. And what I find to be a very common response, something that I've done before in the past, is to just be very vague about it, right? So rather than getting into all the details, rather than getting into the specifics, you might say to somebody, oh, well, I work in film, or yeah, I work with startups. Or one thing that I used to do is I used to say, I'm a wedding photographer, which wasn't even true. Now, being vague, it doesn't really help your case that much in terms of building connection, in terms of building your network, and it also just kind of kills the conversations that you can be in with someone else. So if you want to build some more connection with other people, if you want to build up a network that supports the work you do, and if you just want to have better conversations, it always helps to be more specific. And this is even a broader skill than that, because being more specific in almost every area of your life is going to help you out. And so what do I mean by that? So instead of somebody saying, yeah, well, I work in film or I work with cameras, what if instead you said, I do destination weddings that are cinematic at island locations? Suddenly there's a lot more information there. The conversation can keep going. Instead of saying I work as a freelancer, you could say I help create illustrations for animated videos for up-and-coming tech startups. Now that extra bit of detail, not only is it true, is it honest, and you're not hiding behind some vagueness, but it also helps the person have more of a thread to sort of pull on. They have more surface area in the discussion to understand contextually about who you are. And this is important because every time we meet somebody new, unconsciously, we go through a sort of dialogue in our head, right? You meet someone new and unconsciously, there's a few questions that pop up. The first one is, who is this person? The second one is, oh, can they help me? And that just sounds selfish, but people do think that in the back of their minds, oh, can this person help me with something? If they can't help me, could they help a friend of mine? Could they help somebody in my network? And how can I help them? If you're vague in the response that you give to somebody, all of those questions are going to be left open-ended. All of those questions are going to be sort of hard to judge, and it's difficult to build trust. It's difficult to build a relationship if you're not getting those details. So if you can say to somebody, I'm studying to be a baker at a French restaurant, I really want to make incredible croissants, they might be able to say, oh, you know what, there's this new shop that just opened up down the road from me. I wonder if you could look at taking an application in there. Or if you're a cinematic videographer for destination weddings, they might have a friend who is about to get married who needs just that. You never know what people are going to connect with when you're sharing, but you need to give them something to connect to. You need to give them some details that allows them to understand contextually who you are. Now, the last point I want to make is, if you're selling a service, if you're a freelancer, a contractor looking for a job, if you're somebody who needs to sell in general, just think about it this way. How can people trust you? How can people build trust with you if you're not excited about expressing what it is that you do? If you're not thrilled to tell somebody else, hey, of course, this is what I do, and let me tell you about it. So the switch here is twofold. The first is adding as many details as you can. Of course, you can practice. A lot of people will talk about, I do blank, I help people do X so that they can. That's a very common sort of a Mad Lib that you can use. I help people do blank so that they can do blank. I help people plan a destination wedding so that they can have the wedding of their dreams, whatever it might be. That can add a little bit more detail, but I'm encouraging you to go beyond that. I'm encouraging you to add as many details as possible. Obviously not boring them. If you're somebody who's speaking too much and boring someone, there's probably a whole other video you can watch for that. For this, it's just about getting past the phase of being vague, having a little bit of courage to add some detail and just see what comes of it, see the connection that gets built. The second thing is getting excited and flipping it in your head and saying, instead of, oh, someone's asking what I do, I don't want to talk about this, let me just tell them I'm a wedding photographer so they don't have to ask any more questions, or let me just tell them I work in food. What if you could get excited about what it is that you can share? What if you say, oh, this is an opportunity for me to share about my work? I love talking about my work now. I love giving people the details. And so it's a switch in your head to say, not only is being more specific helpful and beneficial and creates more connection and builds community, it also can be fun. It also can be exciting. So I'm hoping that you can experiment this week in just thinking about how can I be more specific in my writing, even if it's over email and you're meeting someone when you share about what you do. How can I meet someone at a coffee shop and be more explicit, be less vague, add more details, add more surface area, see where that takes the conversation, and figure out, can I flip this in my head so that it eventually is a question I'm excited to receive because I love talking about what I do. So that's the meta skill this week. Upgrade your ability to be specific, to add detail. It will help you in every area you can imagine, and I'm looking forward to hearing your feedback. If you have any questions, of course, leave them in the comment just below, and I'd be happy to respond there. As always, I'll be back again very soon. Later.